Hi everybody, my name is Alyssa Nance and this is my midterm oral assignment, and I just wanted to go over our chapters 1 through 6 and without 2, chapter 2 was not a question asked, and go over the questions that were asked for each chapter and explain my answers. So for chapter 1, the question is, how have recent historical events affected the course of research in organizational psychology? Give an example of an event and the resulting outcome. So for the recent historical event, I chose the aging population of basically the entire world, mostly very developed countries in particular, because developed countries are ones where they have a lot of modern medicine. They have ways to make people live a lot longer, which means they're going to work a little bit longer possibly, and during that time when they've transitioned from experienced worker to retiree, that's what organizational psychologists want to focus on, because this is a question asked by a lot of organizations. So for instance, we want to find the factors that go into this decision when people decide that they want to retire. And there are 4 factors that we consider important. The first one, of course, is age. So when people get that certain age, mostly 65, then they start considering retirement possibly. And also the second factor is health. If people have a bad health history in their family, or if they're just either not feeling well, they're going through a lot of problems, they may consider retirement sooner than somebody who's in a healthier state. The third factor is financial situations that they end up in as a retiree. So when people are working, they are living a certain lifestyle, and when they transfer into a retired state, they want to keep that lifestyle. So they're going to consider whether they're able to or not with their finances before they actually retire. And the last factor is, are they basically tired of work? Are they ready to retire? Do they have ambitions outside of retirement that they want to get done, but didn't have enough time because of their commitment to work? So the importance of retiring comes from the companies too, because companies actually have an influence in it other than these 4 factors, because companies can push and pull employees. Now, if the company is pulling an employee, it means that they want to retain them. They want to keep them for a longer period of time so that they can keep an experienced worker in their pocket and keep earning some money. So, and also it's beneficial because it delays pension costs, and also they want to keep them possibly to train a new employee to take their place so that transition is a little bit more seamless. And also, a company can push a person out of place. So if they want to push a person that maybe is not working as well because of their health, but they're in denial of it, and the company's not feeling they're benefiting from them anymore, they're going to start trying to have factors or try to influence them out into the retirement phase by giving them incentives or talking them into it, or various different things. Ultimately, though, factors for why a person retires is unique to each person, so it's hard to say. However, there are trends and there are things to recognize that organizational psychologists can study, such as the factors mentioned, that can make a difference in predicting when this time will come, and also help companies know how to predict and to prepare for when this transition happens so that the company can continue to benefit from this transition. The next chapter I want to talk about is chapter 3. Now, the question for chapter 3 is, describe the socialization process for graduate students in your program. Is the program successful in socializing newcomers and creating job embeddedness? Well, the first thing about socialization you have to realize is there is an attraction phase, which is basically the recruitment phase, where the university is seeking out students for the next few years to come, and the individual is looking for a higher education institution. So in this respect, the online Liberty University program is wonderful, because, at least for me, because when I was an applicant, I thought about, okay, where can I go that will represent who I am, where I'm a good fit, where they agree with my values, and I'll do well and succeed. Well, Liberty University was a huge factor in that, because they respected my faith, they respected my values and my opinions, and because I was a better fit for them. So really it ended up being a great situation. So once you go from an applicant to a student, this happens after the acceptance phase. Once you're a student, the goal is to transform you into a graduate student, which means you graduated from the complete program. So during this whole time, after you get accepted, the online program is going to be sending you emails. It's going to be having an advisor send you emails and call you and talk to you. You're going to be going through classes and doing discussion boards to meet and greet with students and professors. So you're constantly going through a socialization process, even when you're going online. Now, the goal of the university and the point of having a student become embedded is so that they feel attached to the university, which means they become attached to their successes and failures as well. So when a person graduates and they get a good job, they possibly could become a donor for the university to give back and give extra money in order to recruit more students and to see them succeed. Basically, the technical way that the process of socialization goes is that first you need to learn the history of whatever organization. In the online program, you actually just learn the history of the school, and which is very important because that's how you learn the values, that's how you learn the culture. And also the second thing is unique languages. So when you enter a organization, such as I work at the DMV, so we will use the term LP to represent legal presence. But if you were a customer over the counter, you would have no idea what LP meant. So it's just like how in the university, when you transfer over, like discussion board, for instance, can be abbreviated with DB, but nobody would know that outside of Liberty University or being online using Blackboard, because that is unique to that particular organization or group that you're in. The next process of socialization is politics. Politics are even in online programs, which just means, you learn how to email your professor, the right things to say to them, like using the title line, getting a quicker response. You learn what departments to contact to get the results that you want or the answer that you want, instead of being, contacting the wrong one and being led to another one, Also, getting to know other classmates. That's a huge part of socialization for any organization, is getting to know the people that you work with. So for us, it would be discussion boards. It would be working on teamwork assignments. It would be replying to discussion boards or also emailing each other. And so that's one of the most important parts of socialization. It's where you get the information phase. So that means me as a student, I'm going to be looking for information through other people. And getting to know other people is one of the biggest ways I can do that. Now, the next one is performance efficiency. So this is the point in which students are trying to get to their graduation year, and from the time that they start as a student to the time they graduate, they're constantly getting more efficient at their performance as a student. So it's always the first week of classes that's the hardest, because again, you begin the socialization phase for that particular class, because you're struggling with trying to figure out, okay, when is this assignment due? How does it need to be done? What's the most efficient way I can get this done to save on time so I can go do other things? So that's what's really important. And so hopefully by your graduation, you've become more your performance has become more efficient, so that you're able to complete all the tasks you need to in an efficient manner and be a highly skilled online student. So overall, the online psychology program is great, obviously, and they do a great job of socializing, because they do have a lot of efforts to reach out to the student to make sure that they feel like they're going to be embedded into the culture and the university and feel a part of it. So the biggest thing for the online program, and also any organization, is to make sure that you never stop trying to improve socialization. The current process can always use improvements, and especially innovation. So there are always ways that different ways you can reach out to students, and more advancements down the road with technical abilities or different assignments that professors will use, that you will discover that you learn more from. So that's the biggest thing about socialization. Next, Chapter 4. The question is, how can an organization reduce or prevent work-family conflict? There's actually a number of ways. the first thing that an organization could do to reduce it or prevent it is basically instituting policies and benefits to employees that have families, telling them that, we recognize this, we understand this, that's why we're going to allow A, B, and C in our policies to make sure that you're taken care of, that you know that you have options, because we've ran through these situations, we know how to prepare, that it benefits us and it benefits you. And the next thing is redesigning the job. Parts of redesigning can be allowing for telecommuting, taking your laptop home, working from home, and flex time is a big thing. If you work with your supervisor to agree on hours that you want to work that week to try to fit in a child's baseball game. And also on-site child care, which is very rare because I honestly don't know a lot of places that have this, but I know that a lot of people that would love it. So I could see where this would definitely attract a lot of people into the socialization phase, the attraction recruitment process, if they did offer this. So these businesses that are very kind to family conflict situations where they try to help and work with them are called family-friendly businesses because they're friendly to families. They recognize that they have commitments outside of work and they're going to try to work with you so that you can do your work, but you can also have a family and family time. And so, but even with all of these great policies and procedures, you still have the obstacle of overcoming, which is your supervisor. So even if you have these, if your supervisor does not support them or gives you an aura or you just know his personality or her personality and you think that, you're going to fear a negative repercussion from taking advantage of it, you probably won't, which will raise your work-family conflict, which will make you a more stressed employee and also stressed at home, which just makes you completely unbalanced. So it's important for organizations to observe their supervisors and make sure that supervisors know how to respond to these situations. So they should be trained to know what to say, what strategies to use, what the policies are, what the procedures are. Because some supervisors may not be aware. They may just, be busy with work, so they don't know how to respond. Another thing that organizations can do is offering time management classes to employees. So if employees don't know how to deal with time management well, just because they've never dealt with it before, offering these classes can give them strategies and ways to know how to possibly deal with it so that they can better balance both worlds. So overall, it's important for a business to recognize the work-family conflict. If you're going to be successful as a business, you have to realize a majority of people have families, whether it be children or whether it be taking care of their older parents or if they're taking care of other people that are, near and dear to them. It happens because people have commitments outside of work. So if the organizations can set up policies and procedures and prepare basically for these situations happening, they know how to more appropriately respond and thus benefit more for them and the employee in the end. So the good news is, hopefully, and though this does not always happen, the goal of having these policies and procedures and helping these employees out is that the organization will retain a high quality employee and also that employee will produce better work. And on to our next chapter. Chapter 5. Then Chapter 5's question is, imagine you have been asked to develop a performance assessment program for employee development. What techniques could you use to adequately evaluate employee performance as comprehensively as possible? So the best way to evaluate an employee, and this is just very broadly, is probably using Murphy's 1994 model. This just makes the determinants of job performance, what's involved in it. So the first thing that it does is it breaks down performance into two ways. It's the in-role performance and extra-role performance. The in-role performance is task-oriented behaviors that are associated with the job, such as things you observe about the employee, such as meeting timelines, the amount of work completed. Good examples would be if you had a salesman, what's the percentage of sales they had, how many people did they meet, things that you can actually record in quantity, or there's a recording of it. So those things are pretty easy to record. The harder and behaviors that maybe not as easily identifiable are the extra-role behaviors, which is everything outside of those tasks that may be listed in a job description. So one of them is the interpersonally oriented behaviors. Interpersonal oriented behaviors just means the communications and the interactions of the employee with coworkers, or the employee with a supervisor, or employee with a customer. There are various interactions that take place throughout the day, no matter what job it is. So a way that you can evaluate and assess this would probably be with a survey, or asking coworkers and managers about how their experience was with that employee, so you can get more of a 360 view on how how they are operating relationship-wise and with their personal interactions. Another extra role behavior would be downtime behaviors. And the bad thing about downtime behaviors is they lead to absences at work because you find something else to commit your time to. An example would be drug and alcohol use. Sometimes these downtime behaviors of drug and alcohol use will lead to absences because you're not feeling as well the next day, so you're not going to show up for work because you can't do it. You're not up to the quality or what the work is expecting of you that day. So the best way to assess this is just to record absences, to make sure you have policies and procedures in place to explain to them, what's going to happen, the consequences if you miss so many days. The next extra role behavior is destructive and hazardous behaviors. These are behaviors that may damage the organization or the individual themselves. Such behaviors they can range from a variety of things. One of the examples I would like to use is that you have customer-sensitive documentation, and you just put it on the front counter just like that, and your customer is standing there, and there's plenty of more people in line that could be seeing those documents, and you know that, but you don't care, but you're just putting them there, and that person, somebody random out there, gets a hold of the information, publishes it online, and then it can damage the organization from that point. So next, that's all the extra role behaviors. And it is good to mention again that the Murphy's model is basically used to identify broad performance dimensions. So this will not cover everything. This is just a broad overview. From the point, when you take the broad overview, it just gives you an idea of what to think of. So then you can develop your performance assessment from there and go ahead and put in specific factors or values that you see are important for the job, and go ahead and design an assessment based on that. But the goal of any assessment is to do a complete picture of the employee to make sure you praise what should be praised, and then you can come up with constructive criticism for areas they need to improve on. But if you don't address them or you don't recognize them, then they won't know how to improve, and they won't know what they're doing well. All right, next chapter is Chapter 6. Chapter 6 question is, what are some possible common organizational constraints? How could they lead to counterproductive behaviors? So what are counterproductive behaviors? Basically, counterproductive behaviors are just what it says. It's anything that could damage the organization or the individual. It's anything that that has a negative impact, basically. So there are two broad categories that you could put this in. There's a person-based and there's a situation-based. The person-based would be any type of personality trait that could make you more prone to committing counterproductive work behaviors. For instance, if an organization is limited in their application process, and they don't include a personality assessment, then they may end up being more likely to hire on a person that has traits that will make them prone to getting involved in counterproductive work behaviors, such as low conscientiousness, a predisposition to experience and display anger, a lack of self-control, or they might be highly narcissistic. These things, by research, have just been shown that they have a higher rate of being counterproductive work behaviors. The next category would be situation-based. So situation-based are things that the organization can control as well. So say an organization is not very in touch with their employees and what's going on. They may not be in touch with the norms then, because norms are something that people, especially newcomers, when they come into a group, will try to match. They'll try to assimilate those qualities. So if there are norms within an organization that they want to have, they have withdrawal, and they have unsafe behavior, like leaving their, not buckling themselves in when they're traveling, or if they're abusive towards others, like verbally, or they just say mean things. All these attributes can be taken in by newcomers, and then this, it's just a system that just keeps going on until somebody addresses it. So if an organization fails to notice this and take action, then it's going to continue on, and it's going to make people more prone to causing counterproductive work behaviors. Another situation-based cause is stress. Employees perceive control over their work environment is a large part of this. So when an employee doesn't feel like they have a lot of say in what they get to do, or autonomy, getting knowing that they can't do anything, you just give them something and they just do it, then they're going to be more likely to have higher stress levels, which means they're more likely to engage in counterproductive work behaviors. Versus the person, the opposite of this would be if you did feel you had an internal locus of control and you knew that you had to balance everything and what you should put first and things you can put off, would be different, because even though they may have stress, it would not be to the level of someone that just didn't feel like they had control over it. Another situational based is feeling like the company is treating you unjustly, such as, for example, of being underpaid. If you're feeling underpaid, some people will express that in counterproductive work behaviors because they want to get back and because they feel it's unjust. So, they need to balance that out somehow. So companies need to recognize when maybe they're not noticing that their wages need to increase, or they need to change something within the organization to make it more fair for employees. But the overall idea of the counterproductive work behaviors is just realizing that organizations do have control in preventing or just reducing the amount of counterproductive work behaviors that are seen. And becoming knowledgeable about this is important because they should be knowledgeable about personality traits of their employees, the norms within the organization, and environmental stressors they're presenting for employees. The reason for this is because they can avoid costly and negatively impacting kind of work behaviors. Nobody wants to be the organization that's on TV because someone came in and beat up a bunch of people. That's not a vision people want to see on TV about their business. So it's important for organizations to be proactive and recognize these signs before these incidents happen. So it's important for them to find if there's something going on in their organization, find out why. Don't just stamp it out, because it could be something to constructively change your organization in a positive way. Like if you're not paying employees enough, but you didn't realize that you weren't keeping up with the market, you could make changes to the wages, and then that would help with the unjust problem for many employees and would prevent possible behaviors that were counterproductive from happening. So it's important for organizations to make sure that their environments for their employees are safe and that employees are able to produce their best work. So it's important for organizations to make sure that there are policies and procedures in place, again, so that if it does happen, they can react quickly, and then they can also prevent, hopefully, any negative impact or reduce negative impact from what did happen. So that's what's important about counterproductive work behaviors. And that is my presentation. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.